Hey, church, I just want to remind us that what we say is really, really important to Jesus. Not just what we say, but how we say it. And there are so many verses about this. You go through Proverbs or huge sections of James. I'm actually going to point us to a verse. It's one of the first ones that I ever had to memorize. To be really, really honest, it's because I got in trouble for swearing in church. So, good little reminder for us there. But it's much wider than just using appropriate words and covers a lot of things. I'm going to read it actually in two different versions so we can kind of compare some of the verbiage that it gives us to consider. Ephesians 4:29 is the verse, and here it is from the NIV. It says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building up others according to their needs, that it may be beneficial to those who listen." Or in the ESV it reads, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." So I want to give us some steps that we can kind of think through before we speak. And that's actually the acronym I want to teach us. It's think. Think before we speak. And for each of those letters, we're going to have a little question we want to ask ourselves about what we're about to say. The first one for T, is it true? Is what we're saying true? So obviously we don't want to lie. We know that much. But even goes a step further. Don't repeat things we don't know to be true, which is where a lot of gossip comes from. You hear something from someone, you repeat it, you weren't there, you don't know the situation, and we can repeat things that we don't know to be true. And this is true when we're speaking, and it's also true when we're posting things online. If we're forwarding things that we don't know are true or aren't reliable, we are actually helping to propagate things that we don't know to be true. We want to be people of truth. So ask first, is it T? Is it true? Second, is it helpful? Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say helpful to build this person up? Now, it may be hard truth. It doesn't mean it's going to necessarily feel really good. It might even hurt. Some things that hurt are for our good. God helps us, though it hurts sometimes. So that's not the question. The question is it helpful? And are we motivated to speak things simply because it's bubbling up inside of us, because we need to get it off our chest? That's different. It's what's good for the person who is listening. What is helpful? So THI, is it inspiring? Is it going to, I think kind of visually, I'm a real visual person, and is it going to put wind in their sail, or is it going to take the wind out of their sails? There are ways we can speak the truth that is helpful, that can inspire and build their courage, build their motives, build their spirit, their sense of they can do this. Or we can speak, it can be true, might even be helpful, but it just takes the wind out of their sails. And we all know that saying. But just think about that when you speak to somebody. Are you going to leave them more inspired to be able to do the thing you're challenging them with? Next is the N for necessary. So THIN, necessary. Does it have to be said? I think a lot of times as a dad, this one comes pretty clear to me, that my kids will make a mistake, because kids do, and so do adults. Right? You can have an employee, a friend, a peer, or whatever the case, and they can mess up. They can make a mistake, it can be bad, they can sin, all sorts of things. But if they know it and they feel terrible, we don't need to drive that point home. The point's already been made. I think about Jesus and Peter when Peter denied him 3 times. Now Jesus told him it was going to happen, and when that rooster crowed, he looked at him, and his heart was just broken. And when he speaks to him next, it's not to drive the point home, but rather he drives the point home of, do you love me? And he reinstates him. Now that still was probably uncomfortable, I trust. But he doesn't have to talk again about the fact he denied him. Peter is well aware of what he's done. So is what we're saying necessary? And then for the K, is it kind? Is it kind? There are 2 different versions of the translation I read to you. One says it may benefit those who listen, and one says it gives grace. So I think the benefit of those who listen and gives grace are 2 great ways to kind of define for ourselves, is what I'm about to say kind? Now, in the last ministry I worked at, I was what was called the director of personnel. It was at a camp, and I would hire about 400 older teenagers and young college students a summer. And with 400 college students, inevitably, you're going to have some difficulties. You're going to have some folks that, for whatever kinds of reasons, need to go home. And this would kill me at first. My first summer doing that, having to fire somebody was so difficult. Now, it never got easy, but one thing came true to me as I realized I need to get my heart in a place where I'm going to speak to them about this for their good. For their good. And that was able to produce in me a kindness, a concern for them beyond the events that have occurred or beyond whatever failings have happened, but to know that there is grace for them and that there can be benefit for them to grow through something. And I think that was just one way of being kind. And if I can do that to someone who needs to be let go from a workplace, I can do it with my kids who leave their jacket out in the rain. I can do that with loved ones who frustrate me, not through sin, just by personality differences and things like that. I can be kind when I speak. Now, here's a challenge, though. We can think of all these things in terms of these tasks, but we're also warned in Luke 6:45, the second half, it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Now, there's the trouble, because whatever's in our heart, it's going to bubble up eventually. So how do we deal with the heart? We don't. Jesus does. Jesus is master of our hearts. He has to be connected to us. He has to be flowing life into us in compassion, in love, and the fruit of the Spirit so that we can state what's true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. Otherwise, if it's not in our heart, we're not going to be able to find it. So it's going to kill the spelling, but I would encourage us all to spell think with a silent P, and that's for prayer. Before we ask any of those questions, say a prayer and ask yourself, am I ready to say this, Jesus? Is this something you have for me to share? Help me to speak what's true, what's helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. And if we learn how to speak as He would have us to speak, it'll impact our relationships, it'll impact our peace, it'll be a blessing. And what a wonderful skill to have as a Christian who wants to bear witness for Him. Hope it's a blessing for you. Hang in there. God bless. We love you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.